in a market that's gone up nearly 4 times in the last 12 months, which is crazy. It must be the hottest commodity, I think, in the industry anywhere. I can't think of a hotter commodity.
Gold Invest. Explore opportunity.
We're joined today by Tiger Kim, a battle-tested mining executive from South Korea, and Jeremy Gray, who is known to our listeners as a serial entrepreneur, mainly in the gold mining space. Hello, Tiger. Hello, Jeremy. It's a pleasure to have you both with us at Gold Invest today.
Yeah.
The pleasure's all ours.
It's very nice to be here.
I wanted to talk to you, of course, about tungsten, which is increasingly labeled as a critical metal due to its defense and tech applications. And what you are both building here is you're orchestrating a merger that combines assets, tungsten assets in South Korea, Brazil, and Tadschikistan to create a Western-focused alternative to China's dominance in the tungsten space. We're here to really talk about the vision for Pure Tungsten, and I invite you to start explaining why is tungsten become so opportune now, and what's the reason to forming Pure Tungsten, and what are the objectives? Why don't you start, Jeremy, give us a little bit of a 30-second rundown on what made you create the company.
Thank you, Sven, and thank you for everyone for taking the time to get an update from Tiger and myself. When we announced the merger with GBI back in the summer, the price of tungsten has tripled, and we always had this vision and belief that we can become the largest and fastest growing Western world producer that's not relying on China's supply. And things have just become bigger and better ever since we started this journey together. And we wanted to come on today to update all of your listeners on progress on site at Ssangjon. Obviously, we're doing fantastically exciting things in Tadschikistan, and also we have potentially more growth down the pipeline to make us the largest producer in the Western world. Obviously, the two big names that are producers at the moment are Almonty Industries, EQ Resources, market caps of 15 times our current valuation. So this is a fantastic opportunity to get an update on what we're doing in South Korea, and that's why I'll hand it over to Tiger.
Yes, Tiger, with that, I think the floor is yours to give us an operational update. What can you tell us about the current stage of development at our flagship projects?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Sven. Thanks, Jeremy. Before we talk about the recent development and where we stand at Ssangjon, our Korean mine, I just want to touch base on what's happening in the tungsten market from a tungsten insider's point of view. Obviously, everybody now understands how critical tungsten is in the strategic industry like semiconductor, defense, and everywhere. But the important thing is nobody has given any serious thought about why tungsten price has been tripled and quadrupled in the past 1 year. That's, I would say, it starts from a structural sort of the tightness of the raw materials. As you understand, China has been dominating tungsten production with over 80% for the past several decades. Now, as we all understand, their mines has been facing serious problems of depletion and lower grade. And on top of that, Chinese government is tightening all these environmental regulations. And at the same time, China has developed the mid to downstream industry of tungsten. And now China has become the net importer of tungsten raw material, which is concentrate, right? And basically they are siphoning off all this, the third world tungsten concentrate. Now, which means there are very little left for Western, the processing companies. To give you some little specific idea, last year it was reportedly said that China imported approximately 20 to 25,000 tons of tungsten concentrate, which represent about 20% of the global consumption. That's one of the main drivers of the recent tungsten price surge. And on top of that, and we understand there is a geopolitical tension continuing. And recently, there has been the China-Japan conflict over political issues. All this thing is sort of making the tungsten price to go up. Actually, we are on set of the Lunar New Year, which is next week, which is the largest and the longest festive season across Asia and in in much of Asia, which has been typically very low season. But despite that, the tungsten price has continued up until last week and even middle of this week, which is very exceptional. And now people are asking what's going to happen to Chinese producers. The mid to downstream producers, they come back from these long holidays and find their warehouse empty. So many people expect that even after the Chinese New Year, the tungsten price is likely to continue its rally. That's about the tungsten. And I think, as Jeremy mentioned, the GBI, which has a Ssangjon tungsten mine in Korea. We are about to produce in 3 to 4 months' time. And we have this Tadschikistan project, which is fairly big tungsten mine, probably one of the largest tungsten mine in Central Asia. We are lucky that we have the tailings from this Soviet era, 50 years ago, which is very high quality. And with a little bit of preparation, we believe we can possibly start the reprocessing of tailings toward the end of this year, producing 800 tons of concentrate, which is great because we, Ssangjon Mine, expect to produce 1,000 tons of tungsten concentrate per year. So the Tajikistan mine is equally important. And once we reach the full production of hard rock, the main mine, this mine is supposed to produce up to 4,500 tons, which is probably one of the largest, the top 5 mines in the world. Now,
you mean the Tajikistan mine?
Yes, Tajikistan mine, we are expecting up to...
Okay, so that would rank Tajikistan amongst the top 5, but Ssangjon is with 1,000-ton concentrate. Where is that in relative to other projects? How significant is it in the global market? Maybe you have to give our listeners a little bit of a comparison here.
Okay. To have a direct comparison, our neighbor, the mine, Ssangdong Mine, which is owned by Almonty, their original plan was to produce over 2,000 tons per annum. Now they have this future expansion plan, which may grow up, but our 1,000 ton compares about, or would take about the 40 to 50% of the Ssangdong Mine. And Ssangdong is a fairly big mine, probably one of the largest mine in the Western world. With 1,000 tons out of Ssangjon, which is our mine, I would say with that represent about 25% of tungsten consumption in Korea. So you can have this relative, the volume of the 1,000 to...
That's a valid information. Okay, good. Mm-hmm. All right, so you're just telling us that you're transitioning from a development stage to being an active producer. First in the row will be Ssangjon, and you've mentioned second quarter as being your target for start of production. What needs to happen in order to allow for that?
Our commercial production target in the second quarter is unchanged. To give a little more details, we are expecting the installation completed by early May and going through the commissioning stage in May and start the full-scale commercial production in the month of June. Now, this has been a couple of months delay from the original target, and now let me explain why. The recent tungsten price surge has changed the paradigm of tungsten mines around the world. In the past, producing 60 to 65% standard concentrate, WO3 concentrate, has been a practice in the market by tungsten mines. Now, nobody is producing 60 to 65% anymore. With this high tungsten environment, tungsten is so precious that you want to increase your recovery ratio, minimizing the loss. So every mine in the world, including Chinese, they are producing low to medium grade tungsten concentrate, ranging between, I would say, 15 to 35%. By producing this low to medium grade tungsten, the recovery ratio will go up. In other words, the tungsten mines will benefit from more tungsten, which is so scarce and valuable. And now we've been requested by sort of our potential, the buyers, that we don't need to produce high-grade tungsten of 60 or 65%. So we have gone through a couple of months modification. And now with that modification is completed, or we will ship in the additional equipment from the manufacturers. That's the reason why we have a couple of months delay. But ultimately, long term, we are going to benefit a lot from about, I would say, 15 to 20% more tungsten retrieved from the shift.
Okay, so I think it is important to remind our listeners that of the fact that you have not only the mine that is ready to produce, but you also own the processing route, and you are already in talks with refineries and off-takers.
Yeah.
So it's a commercially viable business plan.
That is correct. Well, in case of tungsten, you don't need to worry about the offtake or long-term offtake contract. As soon as you produce the tungsten concentrate, there will be the queues of off-takers waiting for us. So ultimately, we have not decided the long-term offtake partner yet. Our idea is to start producing at Ssangjon-Mine and develop the Tadschikistan mine up to speed, then talk to the major off-takers. That is our plan.
Okay. Well, I think we understand that, but all of this, requires funding, financial foundation. Can you talk about the recently completed private funding phase and share with us the details on the total capital raised so far and how those funds have been deployed to de-risk the assets?
Yeah, absolutely, Sven. We did a 7 million Canadian funding round last year. It's a very low valuation entry point. We always do that with our private rounds, as you know, Sven, for our gold companies. And we expect very strong interest over the next 2 weeks to complete the funding to get Tiger into full production. Now, there are lots of offtake partners always ringing Tiger and myself. And as Tiger said, join the queue. There are a lot of royalty groups even chasing Tiger to do a royalty on Ssangjon. And what I'll say about Ssangjon, and I took my family there, we've all been to site a couple of times now, that mine will be running for the next 40 years. It is a world-class tungsten mine in a tier 1, number 1 country jurisdiction, 25 minutes down the road from Almonte. It's a beautiful business. Tiger's done an incredible job putting that whole business together over the last 5 years with Hupo plant, just going through the whole process, and now we're just about to turn on and commission in a market, as you said, that's gone up, Tiger, nearly 4 times in the last 12 months, which is crazy. It must be the hottest commodity, I think, in the industry anywhere. I can't think of a hotter commodity. And also there's another investor that Tiger has secured out of Korea who's putting in a further $2 million US, who's a very large buyer of tungsten as well. So we're very privileged to have them on the register and really excited to be turning Ssangjon on, as Tiger said, in May.
Yeah, I clearly can see that the story is validated also by industry and industry money and capital. You were making reference to listed companies. Pure Tungsten, as of today, is still a private company, which has its advantages, but also I think ultimately the goal must be to benefit from the leverage of that public markets provide.
Yes, and Tiger's reviewing all options. We're being on a NASDAQ listing makes a lot of sense, particularly with our Monty listing. There's a number of shells in Canada that are talking to Tiger and myself. And also London is a favourite of our future chairman, Paul Enzer. We need to get producing first. We need to get some runs on the board. But, being public does allow us to then significantly re-rate and give liquidity for our very loyal shareholders who've come in on these rounds. So we totally understand the importance of listing. And we want to get out there and show just how good this beautiful mine, and also how the incredible potential of Tadschikistan. I mean, I take my hat off for what Tiger's done in Tadschikistan to secure a Maykhura. It supplied, I think, 1/3 of Russia's needs during World War II. It is by far the richest tungsten deposit or mine restart in the industry, and I think grades of 1%. Tailings are probably 0.5%. So what a class addition to the portfolio Tajikistan is. So much potential, but we're not going to stop just there. We are looking at another acquisition right now that we're talking about, and that could take us to even a higher production round, and by far and away then the biggest producer in the Western world.
So clearly the vision for Pure Tungsten would be not to be just a one-trick pony with Ssangjon being in operation, but adding even larger, also near-term producing assets to the portfolio. Well, establishing itself as a global player in the tungsten space, really.
Absolutely. So if I may, to supplement the Jeremy's, as Jeremy mentioned, we are exploring all the possibility. We have not decided which market, but we are looking at NASDAQ, TSX, AIM, everywhere. The important thing is we can find a market and write the shell for the RPO, and where the market gives us the optimum and best valuation.
Well, I thank both of you for joining today and look forward to seeing that next round being closed. And we'll certainly link to the landing page that you just mentioned. Stay tuned, please. Thank you so much.